Welcome back to Comic Book History, episode 81. Yes, it's been over a year since I did this one, but I couldn't think of any characters to do any more for this one, so here we go. Which character I'm discussing? Why, Marvel's most frequently, let's just say, most infrequent character to be written in their history of their company. Hank Pym, aka Ant-Man, aka Giant Man, aka Goliath, aka Yellowjacket, aka the Wasp. Yes, 5 different identities over the years. It's a recurring joke about him. Henry Hank Pym made his debut in 1960, I believe it was 62, in Tales of Astonishment number 27 in a short story. Yes, 27. Where this debut, just him, his powers, back he shrink for the first time, and no suit. That did make his debut to issue 35. That's the first Ant-Man. And he was Ant-Man for a certain period of time. And here's the strange thing, though. 9 issues after his debut as Ant-Man, we introduce his beautiful female partner, the Wasp. Jenna Van Dyne. We also get used to his backstory. Oh, by the way, during this period of time, he fought someone called Comrade X, who turned out to be a woman. He also fought Whirlwind for the first time. Yes, I'll discuss this in a little bit more detail when I discuss the Ant-Man Epic Collection. So, basically, Wasp introduces the issue. She's basically, they don't get much of their backstory. They do briefly see her father in the story. We get Hank Pym's backstory, where he was previously married before then to a woman named Maria, who, on their honeymoon, for some strange reason, they went to her home country for their honeymoon. I would have chose any other place else. Like, why would you go back to the country you just escaped from for your honeymoon? That's a stupid idea. And also, do you probably have a better idea for the honeymoon? Like, I don't know, you could have gone to Hawaii. You could have gone to England. That would have been a nice place to honeymoon. Or, here's one, you could have gone to France. Nope, go to her home country, which is controlled by the communists. Yes, because it was the 60s. And she's captured and supposedly killed. Here's the thing. They never confirm she died. They just say she died. And her father basically just never spoke to her again. As a matter of fact, her father only appears in one issue. And then, of course, here's the thing. Hank starts kind of falling for her. Falling for Janet. I think she says, oh, she looks exactly like Maria. Despite that, according to the artwork, she just doesn't. It's not like they're both women. Yeah, and of course she finds a secret because of this bug invasion. This alien bug invasion appears in one issue. And she gets her own suit as the Wasp. And they start fighting crime together. Yep. And this lasts for a pretty period of time. I think with issue, it was 59 of the book, they decided to have them briefly fight the Hulk. And it came as on backup feature of the book. Excuse me. Now, you could say Tales of Astonish was basically Ant-Man's, or at least Hank Pym's title. It was. He had the title up until issue number, I think it was like, let's see, how long did he have the book for? Okay. He had the book up until issue 69. Yep. And also with issue 49, basically not long after Janet Van Dyne shows up, he becomes Giant Man. An identity he would actually keep for about 5 years. Yes, seriously. He's basically Giant Man from 1963 to, actually 3 years, to 1966. Yep. So, yeah, and also during the time before the book feature ended, he also joined the Avengers with Janet. And they were regularly part of the team for the first 16 issues. Then took a leave of absence, and then he came back to the series. Of course, I've talked about this in my Edward review of the Epic Collections, where he came back in issue 26 and was sort of an on-off character since then. With issue 28, he becomes Goliath. an identity he kept for about 2 years. Yep, 2 years he was Goliath, and this is where the inconsistency starts. He says, "Oh, I can only go to 25 feet, and I can say that's the height for 15 minutes." Yeah, that's basically written out by the next writer, or at least basically Roy Thomas forgets about it, because actually that was Stanley who did that. So after 2 years of being Goliath, he becomes Yellowjacket. Well, people don't think he's Yellowjacket; they just have Yellowjacket just randomly show up. And this was his. Now here's the thing: this is 4 identities in 5 years. Yes, seriously, and. Then of course they get married, they issue 54, and they stay married for 20 years. And during this period of time, at one point they briefly let the book again, and by the 70s, after the Rebecca featured the pages of Iron Man, issue 44, he got another solo book. This time under the umbrella of Marvel Feature. Now, he took over issue number 4 because Avengers was issued for the first 3 issues of the series. He came issue 4, I think with issue number 6 or 7, Wasp on the book, and then the feature ended with issue 10, effectively ending any other solo feature for him. And mostly put, he made guest appearances, including making appearances in the pages of Marvel Team Up. And then the 80s roll around, and this basically, for in-story, his life started falling apart at this point in time. We issue 215 of the book. This is when Steve Englehart wrote the book at the period of time. He basically had it where we fought this character known as the Elf Queen, a one-shot character who Hank Pym murdered. And then he's put on trial, and basically, oh yeah, and also, just before he went out to kill the Elf Queen, he slapped his wife. Yep, he slapped his wife. That somehow turned to a black eye for some reason. Yes, seriously. And basically, Wasp divorced him. On the spot, leaving him with nothing. Yes, seriously. Wasp divorced him over this slap. And then she hooked up with Iron Man for a few days, and she didn't do much afterwards. Not really. Hank Pym, of course, basically had to defeat Egghead out of costume in a story known as Trial of the Yellowjacket, which, yeah, Hank Pym was kicked off the Avengers for killing the Elf Queen and for smacking his wife. And of course, basically, his life with not much control for the next few years. And then he retired from being a superhero. Oh, by the way, when he became Yellowjacket, he couldn't do the giant size thing anymore. Nope, couldn't do the giant size thing anymore. He can shrink, but he can't go giant size. Doctor's orders. This is ignored by the next writer. No joke, it seriously is. Also, I should point out that issue 50 of Avengers, we are introduced to something basically a piece of machinery he created that has since become a reoccurring villain for the Avengers since then. Who is it? Ultron, a robot who claims to be his son, and not long after his introduction, we're introduced to the Vision. A robot who Ultron claims to be his son, thus effectively named to be Hank Pym's grandson. Yes, seriously, because Ultron created the Vision. I'll discuss Vision in their comic corner. So, with him retired, with the establishment of the West Coast branch, he moves out there, wears a red tracksuit, or at least, a red jumpsuit, just for himself as Dr. Henry Pym, and stays retired for over a decade, until 1990s roll around and he becomes Giant Man again. Yep, becomes Giant Man again, for reasons completely unknown. And then, of course, he's basically kind of like this. Also, in the 90s, the Wasp becomes mutated, though this is ignored after the Onslaught stuff. And then after he came back, then he basically, with the relaunch of Carview 6 Avengers run, Hank Pym decided to go through all of his entities in a handful of issues. Like, first he's Ant-Man, then he's Giant Man, then he's Goliath, then he's Yellowjacket again. And for a long period of time, Yellowjacket was his main identity for about 6, 7, basically for a long period of time. I'd say from about 2002 to about 2004, basically, that was his main identity. And also this period of time, he hooked back up with Janet, his ex-wife, which, of course, they had at one point in the issue where, get this, they had one issue of the book where they show them clearly they're having sex, and they had Hank Pym shrink down just so he can go inside Janet Van Dyne's groin. I have no idea why the heck the artist thought that was a good idea to do. Of course, a lot of people point out, though, yes, there's no problem with two adult people having sex in a comic book. But that was stupid. Really stupid. So you basically shrink down, just do a sexual thing to your ex-wife. And by the way, this led into another proposal for Janet, which she turns down. And then this would happen, which he knew much of the event anyways, and they decided to retire to go to the UK for about a couple years. Yeah, he didn't do anything from 2004 to 2006. Yeah, he did nothing. And then he got caught up to deal with the initiative stuff, thanks to Civil War I, a crossover that is one of the most polarizing crossovers in history of Marvel Comics. And strangely enough, Hank Pym does not get a lot of flack in this story for some reason. Like, I've heard a lot of flack toward Captain America, to Iron Man, to Reed Richards. For some reason, and I do kind of agree with Linkara on this, Reed Richards would be a complete alien. Because, despite the fact Mark Millar would actually write him later on, be perfectly fine. No idea why he would be like this for. But Hank Pym? Oh yeah, and also in the story, Hank Pym, Reed Richards, and Tony Stark came up with the Thor clone. Yes, the Thor clone. What is Thor clone, you might ask? It is made from a single grain of hair that Iron Man has kept at this point in time for 40 years in comics, since the founding of the Avengers, to create this robot clone of Thor. And he's sent out to basically participate in this battle of this power plant owned by him. And what does he do? He murders Goliath. Well, he murders Bill Foster, who is he is the second person to get named Goliath. For the most part, anyways, yes. Because the second one was, I think the third one was, he was second one because the third one was Eric Johnson, who became Atlas period of time. Yes. By the way, does basically Hank Pym come out of this thing perfectly fine? Yeah, and also it also was revealed a couple years later after this that Hank Pym got replaced with a Skrull. Yes. Hank Pym got abducted by the Skrulls and replaced. And this is the one who created the Thor clone. And after the event of Secret Invasion, he basically forms a new team Avengers. Well, he basically takes up the old Mighty Avengers title, which I was briefly in a few issues. Basically, his run for Mighty Avengers as leader started issue 21 and last issue 36. Yes, a 16-issue run. This is, of course, when Dan Slott wrote the book. Yeah, also some credit of our groups he was part of when he was for the Avengers. He was also very part of the Defenders. And if you're curious, though, when did he join the Defenders? He became part of the Defenders as sort of a recruit with issue 23. Yep. And of course, Wasp joined issue 77. Yeah, basically they're very brief members, like basically just allies. Yep. And he also became part of the Secret Defenders. Secret Defenders basically people around for like 1 or 2 issues and they're dropped. Yep, they're dropped. Excuse me. He actually did attempt to join the group. With issue number 18. Yep. Yeah. So, with the Mighty Avengers, this team was led by him. With the line being, get this, while along with Iron Man, we had Hercules, Amadeus Cho, Jocasta, Straxure, the Second Vision, Quicksilver, yes, Quicksilver, and briefly the Scarlet Witch, who turned out to be Loki. Well, female Loki. JMS for you. And it's also this period of time we get introduced to the Infinite Avengers Mansion, which is later revealed in a miniseries known as Ant-Man and the Wasp, where Hank Pym teams with his modern successor, Scott Lang, where it turns out the Infinite Avengers Mansion is behind Janet Van Dyne's eye. Because during the events of Secret Invasion, Janet is supposed to kill by Thor, because Skrull Pym gave her a bomb when she went giant size for the first time that I can think of. Though this is later retcon 4 years later, where Thor didn't kill her, he sends the microverse. Yes, seriously. The Avengers Mansion, this was an absolute really good concept. I love the Avengers Mansion. It was even around when he became took charge of Avengers Academy. Yep. Really cool concept. I love Avengers Mansion. Basically, in a way, it's like Dan Slott paying respect to the history of Avengers with this thing. And we had Jarvis here as a supporting character, because can't Avengers have Jarvis. And they actually had a series of missions like this one called called Disassembled. It was a really good run. At one point, they fought a character known as, basically during this, we also introduced a human known as the Unspoken. Yes, which Hank Pym comes to the idea to recruit all Avengers teams to fight him. And this lasts for a great period of time. He fights Dark Avengers. He takes an Ultron for the last couple issues as part of a Siege tie-in. Where, get this, he has Ultron and Jocasta marry and have Jocasta with him. Basically, Avengers Academy. After the events of Siege, that team might Avengers disbands, and basically he takes charge of the Avengers Academy. And this lasts from 2011, 2010 to 2013. Yes, a 39-issue run for the group. Yep, a little over 3 years. Written by Christos Gage, Mike Cohn. Basically, also, I almost forgot to mention this too. I think it was Secret Invasion Dark Reign, he becomes Wasp the first time. And this lasts for a little over 2 years. And then when issue 7 of Avengers Academy, he becomes Giant Man again. Also in this book, he is dating Tigra. Yes. Which apparently this relationship has gone on and off since the West Coast Avengers days. Oh yeah, and it's found out toward the end. Now here's the thing. Toward the end of Avengers Initiative, it's found out that Tigra is pregnant. Yes, pregnant. But her pregnancy lasts very long because she's a cat person. And she gave birth. And she named her son William. After her late husband. Yes, and it turns out, get this, despite the fact that William's father is a Skrull, because this relationship kind of also started when how he was conceived was the fact that Tiger was supposedly sleeping with Hank Pym, but actually was a Skrull. But because it was mixed in with Hank Pym's DNA, genetically, Hank Pym is William's father. Yep. And Hank Pym has no problem with this. He also basically promises that anything happens to Tiger, he will take care of her son. Which she accepts. And this relationship lasts the entire book. At one point, she even shuts down the school and they hold hands. The Avengers Academy was a series, I kind of felt this though, was very much like, it was a good concept. I love the book. I love the characters. The problem is the book got canceled because they had the shoving a reference to Hunger Games. When this book ended, Hank Pym just didn't do a lot afterwards. He then ended up with the Avengers AI. Yes. What is the Avengers AI? Which by the way showed up in 2013. Basically, this book showed up not long after Avengers Academy discontinued. Yes. Where the team was comprised of Hank Pym, Alexis the Protector, a Doombot, Victor Machina, who is Vision's brother, course, Vision is here, along with the 616 version of a character by the name of Monica Chang. Who is Monica Chang, you might ask? Monica Chang was, in the Ultimate Universe, the Black Widow. No, seriously, she was. The 616 version didn't do very much at all. Not really. Mostly just this one book itself. And I think, not long after this book was concluded, by the way, the book was written by Sam Humphries. Yes, Sam Humphries wrote this book. You think, wait, Sam Humphries? The guy who wrote Green Lanterns in 2016? Yep, same guy. He did a couple years after he did finish this book. I think he also did, if I remember correctly, I think he also did Illuminati as well. I believe so. When this book concluded, more of Hank Pym doing nothing, and then Rage of Ultron happened. A year after this, where Hank Pym merged with Ultron in the story, and then after that, nothing was done with him for over a year. And then Ultron shows up in a animator claiming he's Hank Pym. But then after Janet sees him, it's like, yeah, basically Ultron killed him and is wearing his skin as a costume. Yes, seriously. And then this Ultron Hank Pym shows up not only after this in pages of Secret Empire, where he started up a fresh city in Alaska, of all things. The issue was completely random at best. And then afterwards, I think nothing. I think it was back in 2017 when this happened. But as far as I can tell, aside being a frequent recurring character in a lot of books, he hasn't done much of anything. Well, scratch that. He did pop up for an annual for the Scott Lang Ant-Man book by Nick Spencer, where it explains that inside of Scott Lang's helmet, which was Hank Pym's helmet, there is another laboratory of Hank Pym's, and also eggheads will be alive, despite the fact he died. How did he die? Well, a gun misfire caused by Hawkeye. So he kills him in self-defense and gets off on it. Yep. And then afterwards, he gets his own miniseries. A really good miniseries by Al Ewing. Celebrates 60 years of Hank Pym. Just basically him over the years. I will discuss at some point. But that's pretty much it to discuss for Hank Pym. Because, like I keep mentioning, it seems like this guy was a character Marvel just did not know what to do with him. Lee had kind of an idea what to do with him. But it seems like no one else ever did. I mean, Wasp is more frequently written to be consistent with her character than Hank Pym was. Yes, seriously. Because that's a strange thing. Wasp has always been pretty consistent over years. There'll be a socialite. Oh, there's a bit of legacy with her, with the case of Hank Pym. Excuse me. Not long after his apparent death in Rage of Ultron #1, it is discovered in the pages, I think it was toward the end of All New Avengers by Mark Waid. Actually, it was discovered, I think it was just the start, I think halfway through the book. It was discovered that Hank Pym had a teenage daughter named Nydia Pym. That basically they actually had a storyline with her, where at one point people from her home country, which is the country her mother comes from, and Maria's alive. Yes, Maria's somehow alive, despite the fact that she should be dead. It's very confusing when it comes to her. Of course, when it shows up, people think that Janet's her mom. Now here's the thing about Nydia. I have to mention her because the only reason why they gave Hank Pym a daughter in 616 because he had a daughter in the movie named Hope. Which, that's not the name of the character. The book is Nydia. Name Hope Pym. That comes from the MC2 version of the character, who is evil along with her brother. Yes, they made the children of Hank Pym and Jenna Von Dyne evil. So Nydia, of course, basically just meets her awesome stepmom, and they get along perfectly fine. And if you're curious, though, despite the fact that Hank Pym and her were married a long time, why do these two have any kids? Because apparently early on, apparently being a super... This is something quite strange, though. Apparently they said early on, apparently having kids was dangerous. So they chose not to. When I saw it, I'm like, that's a stupid thing to write in a comic book. So, Hank Pym has a daughter with his first wife, but not with Janet. Oh, and here's something, though. This wife like Janet has slept with not only Hank Pym, but also Tony Stark. She's never ended up pregnant. Yes, the beautiful Jenna Von Dyne, who is rich, has never ended up pregnant. Also, this was quite interesting, though, because in the movie, Hank Pym's got a company. They included it in the comic for some reason. Yes. They gave him Pym Industries, which is the same company he has in the movie Ant-Man. Oh, in case you're curious, though, does Nydia put any moves on Scott Lang like she does in the movie? No, because she's a teenager. Scott Lang is probably about 40, and she's like 18. And she had 2 solo books to her name. First lasted for 8 issues, which was a great book. And then they brought the book back, which I had heard the reason they brought the book back because of really good graphic novel sales. Because people apparently love this series. And they brought it back, and it lasted for 10 issues. And I also discovered in the book that apparently she's bipolar. Which apparently Hank Pym was too for some reason. I love Nydia. She changed her name to Nydia Van Dyne because she did ask her Janet's permission for this, and she accepted no problem. Because she's living with Janet now. Nydia, of course, is an absolute great character. I kind of wish they do more with her. Yes, I love the fact she's basically watched as like her awesome stepmom. But I kind of wish they give her more to do. And I'm really hoping... Now, here's the thing about her I do appreciate. Unlike her father was inconsistently written, Nydia is not. Nydia, just like her stepmom, is very consistently written, which I do appreciate Marvel doing that for her. But here's hope, basically, to do more with her in the future. Oh yeah, basically, she also meets her half-brother, William. Meets Vision's beautiful daughter, Vision, which is a Tom King character, which of course it's a really good series. The Vision book was really good. But yeah, that's particular view. Next up is going to be Demon Slayer. Okay, next video. Bye.